Hey everybody, let's start with how to draw the legs. So in this image I'm showing the legs of the male and the female. So here on the left we have the male legs, and the biggest difference with that of the female leg is this point. You can see that this point is wider or farther away than the hips are. And with the female, you see the widest point is here at the hips. So with the female, generally speaking, the widest point is at the hips, the waist. And with the male, it's lower here above the knee. So that's something you can have in mind when drawing the legs. So another difference is with the male, you have more of these sharp corners. And with the female, there's more of these rounded shapes. And of course, I'm speaking generally, and there's also it can also be the other way around. It basically depends on how your body's built, or on how muscular or how high your fat percentage is. So those are the biggest difference. You can also check this image to study it more. I'm showing here the muscles in a simplified way, and later I will talk more about those muscles. So like I'm showing here I'm showing how I draw the muscles of the leg, and these are the bones. And so here these and it's basically a stylized version of the bones, and here's more how I actually sketch those bones for the legs. But still, it's good to at least study it, and also learn a bit of the names. I don't remember them all, but it's good to at least have studied them once, so you have an understanding of those legs. So here, let me draw those legs. So here we have this, here the hip bone or the pelvis. It's a bit of this shape, this going in the front and this goes to the back. It's quite a complex shape, but in the last video I shown all these steps. So here. Can you recognize the pelvis shape like you've seen here? And here are the legs connected. And those upper leg bones are called the femurs. So here. And later I will show the total body proportions. So I'm now doing it on the feeling, but later in this video I will show how to how to draw those in proportions. So here we have the tibia, and behind that is the fibula. And I've drawn here, and in the next video I will show the side view. Here are the feet, and here we have those toes and those middle bones. So let's draw the other side. So here the same, going down. And here's this bone. And then the feet. So now we have those bones, and you can see that, and you see that especially here, there's this S curve going through the legs, like this here. And then we can build on the muscles on those bones. So this one is a big muscle. It's called the vastus. And again, you don't have to remember those names, but it's good to understand them a bit. And I'm using these reference images myself to be able to draw these muscles. So whenever I have to draw an illustration where you can clearly see those muscles, think of someone who's very muscular and doesn't wear any clothing, you would see a lot of those muscles. So here, this blue muscle is called the rectus, and it's not the longest, but it's a very long muscle. So it's going on top of the vastus, the purple muscle, and it's attached to the knee. So there. Then we can draw the sartorius, and that one is the longest muscle, I think, from the whole human body. And it's going from this point all the way down to the back. And then we have the glutes from the side. It's going like this. And then we have the abductor. And I think that one is very important because that shows the inner shape of this body here. Like this here. And then we also have the calf muscles. And here we have the gastrocnemius and the peroneus. Oh. So like this, they're going around. And you can see that here, this part is higher than this here. So you get this line, if you put this line through. So those are basically the steps I take to drawing the muscles. And I would advise you to look at this image and learn these steps. It's just useful to know these steps, and you can always use this reference whenever you're stuck. Here you can see how I would use it in an illustration here in the final drawing. So let's move to the next one. Here I'm showing the back. And of course, that's really close to the previous image I just shown. So here, let's draw the back of the pelvis. So you can see that plate and this part that is going to the front, and this tailbone, and this part here, this part going in the front. And then we have this femur that's going down here. And then the tibia and the feet going like this here. So again, here and here. So if I would draw this stylized, what I did here, I would draw it again with this S shape. I would simplify the pelvis and I would use this S shape here to draw the feet here. So again, use this shape here. And that's the difference between realistic and a bit more stylistic. You can still see here this S shape, but here I exaggerated it. So let's take this one. So let's draw the muscles on top of it. So attach this part to here. And let's go down here. Here. So this big muscle, and look at the points where I attach the muscle, attach the muscle to the bone here. Then let's draw in the glutes. In the last image, you could already see this part, the side part, but the most important part is, of course, in the here, this part. In the previous video, I already talked a bit about it. It looks like a car tire. So here we connect these parts. Oh, made a little error here. So this should go here. You can also feel this part here. You can feel this bone part. And of course, that's a really funny trick. Is in your body you have all these landmarks where your bones are sticking out. So then we have here the abductor. It's going here. And then we have this festus. It's going down here. So it's on the side. Then we have the calf muscles. It's going here. Like this here. And also that one on the other side. So you can see, you can basically draw the calf muscle as one muscle, but you can even combine it. And when you combine it, you get this shape. It's almost this diamond shape. And here, you have this part here, this opening between those two parts here. So you have a bit of here. So this calf muscle can also look a bit like this here, and you can draw this arrow through it. You can clearly see it in this image. So here and here. Again, you can see those here and here. So this is how I would draw it in a more stylistic way, and how I often draw it. And finally, in the line work, most of the time you only see these lines, but it all depends on which muscles are stretched and squashed. But I would advise you to practice these muscles, like I'm shown here, so you have a grasp understanding of how they work. So let's look at the legs from the side. So here you can see these bones muscle. Oh, let me tell a bit about this drawing first. Here you can see the pelvis from the side, and then we have I think that was the humerus. I hope I'm right. So here, and when it's bent, it's not bent like this. But here these muscle of these bones get bent like this, and here's the knee. These bones get bent like this here. So that means when we would draw this, the tube here and the tube here, then you get the knee that is stretched like this. So when you have the leg from the side, I'm always starting with a line of action, and especially here you can clearly see this S shape. You can draw the pelvis on top of it. Then we can draw this bone here with the knee here. Then here we have those two bones. And you can also see you also have those two bones in your arms. So let's erase this a little bit so we can draw on top of it. So again, then we have these glutes here. And also this glutes from the back. Then we have this rectus, that's a really long muscle. That's going like this here. But on the side, there's this vastus muscle. And you can see here this joint, this one, there, there are a lot of muscles attached to it, like this vastus here. So, and that one is again connected to the knee. So then we also have the bicep femoris. That's from the back here. And that's connected to this part here. Then we have the calf muscle that is going down here. And you can see this calf muscle is going all the way down to the feet, but here it sticks out a little bit more. So, and then you have the total view of the leg. So, like this here. So these are the muscles, and there are a lot of more muscles, but these are the muscles I'm trying to remember and use for my drawing. And I think it's for the style I'm drawing in enough. And even if you want to go a step farther and more realistically, you can use these muscles as an base and look up anatomy images from the internet, and then you can see all the muscles. But then basically, a lot of these muscles, there are a lot of thinner muscles underneath it. But these muscles I'm drawing here are the most visible muscles. So let's continue to the next image, how you can compare the leg with the chain. And maybe you've seen a previous image of where I compared the arm with a chain. But that's a bit often how the muscles are built. So you can see this first part that is going like in this direction, like this here. And you can even draw this hole here. And then we have this part that's going through it. And then here. And there's this hole here. And there's this also here, this part going through like this here. Let's make this a little bit smaller so I can more clear show it. Again, this one is going through it and here. So then we have this here, this chain that is going through it. So now we have all these chains, and it's really funny is that, for example, this chain here, if this is our butt, we have this chain here, then it would make sense that this one can move up and down in this hole. So that's why it also works with these muscles. So, but of course, our legs don't look like change. So it looks more like this. So you need to change them a bit. But maybe it's a fun exercise is to start sketching like that. And you can also do this in your sketchbook, and then with an eraser, softly erase the lines. And it also helps to draw really soft. So you can just keep working on it. It's basically like you're sculpting. You're starting with a block of stone and you're picking away all these shapes. You're getting from there, from there, from there. And I think that's a really good mindset to train to draw these kinds of things. So let's look at the bending of the knee again. And I've already shown this a bit, but here you can see the bone. So we have this pelvis, and then we have this femur. It's going like this. The patella, or our kneecap, and then the leg goes like this. So oftentimes I'm drawing it like this. So here I'm drawing the whole bones in a simplified way, but a lot of times I'm drawing it like this line here. Then here this feet. like this here. So when we're bending the knee, it would look like, maybe I can use different color. So it would look more like this here. So here. So what happens here with the knee is when it bends, so our femur looks like this here, with the cylinder here. There's this kneecap on top of it. And this bone here, the tibia, it has this rectangle on the top. So you see that in the back, so here. And here you can see it gets stretched. So here, this ball is normally like this, but when we bend our knee, it's more stretched. It's like this ball gets stretched. So don't draw it too pointy, the knees, but draw it a bit like this here. So you have this angle and not this. Curves in the leg, that's super important for when you want to draw this appealing leg. So here, keep these curves in mind when you're drawing the leg. So you have these curves against straight. And I'm showing that here. So here we have these curves versus these straight lines. Again, here's this S shape. And here's a straight line. And you can see this part is also a bit more straight and this more curved. So you can always see this straight versus curved. And even when you don't see it in real, when you're adding it to your drawing, it makes your drawing more appealing. Because compared with a robot, if you draw a robot, you use a lot of straight lines. But when you're drawing something that's from nature, for example, a tree, you want to use these organic shapes. So try to think of that. So in nature, we see all these organic shapes, and when we're drawing something that's not organic or not from nature, we use these parallel lines. So when you're drawing the body, you want to use these organic lines, these straight versus curved, or curved versus an S shape, etc. So I already showed a bit of these angles in the legs. So when we're drawing the legs, so here, yeah, like this, and here's the feet. So this is the inside, this is the big toe, small toe. Then, and this is the front view. So we have these angles in the drawing, also on this side. So here. So it looks like an angry face. Can you see it? Here, this point, 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 this point. So if you draw these lines through, you see an angry face. So here and here. So here, this angle is lower and this higher. This is higher and this lower. So when you make that, you have this angry face, and that angry face, I use that to remember. And after a while, you're using that, it will stick in your mind. More leg flows, and that's also really important for when you try to draw something appealing. So I've shown how to draw all those muscles and stuff, but this really helps with creating more appealing drawing. So we have this action line, and then you can draw these lines going here. So again, you can see this curve versus straight. And then here again, these lines, and they follow this big line. So try to think of that. Try to think of it that if you put a ball inside it, that it bounces on and off on these curves, or that it's water. And why is that important? Because we get this flow into our drawings. We always want to get flow and gesture when we're making drawings. I want to make them appealing, because that also guides the eye. So you, as viewer, you also get help to how to look through it. It makes a drawing feel appealing. So here you can also see that here the flow and these action lines. So you can draw these arrows at it. So here and here. So you get the feel of this energy that this here, this is pushed here inwards. So you get this yeah, these gestures. You get this energy following these shapes, going through it. So here you can use, here you can see on also on perspective. Again, what I often do is when I'm drawing legs, I first draw the ground plane with perspective. And I'm not always drawing the horizon and all the points. Sometimes I draw really roughly a ground plane like this and then draw the feet on top of it. And if you don't know how to draw this ground plane, I would advise you to learn perspective, because perspective can really help you understand these things, even when you don't want to draw backgrounds and so on. So that's really important, how these feet stand on this grid. See how these feet are connected to the ground. That's really really important. So that's also really a thing you can focus on when you're drawing figure drawing, that you focus on this part of the body and see if you can get this nice flow in it. Are the feet nicely connected on the ground, and so on. So here I'm showing the steps of how to draw the human body. So let's start with that. Oftentimes I start with just drawing a simple line straight downwards like this here. And then we're dividing this line through a half. So somewhere here. You can just eyeball it. You don't have to measure it perfectly. And I think it's even good, better to eyeball it, because you want to let things feel naturally. Again, divide it again. So you get 1/4. So like this. Then divide it again. So here we have this part for the head. And then we can divide this part through 3. And then we can draw this circle here. And then we can divide this part again. And then take the middle and draw this here. And again, if you can't follow it, use this image to draw those steps. And it doesn't have to be perfectly like this. This is just a guide on how I draw the body. And it somehow matches up with the real proportions, but not perfectly. But it comes quite close. And it really makes really useful to draw characters in poses to figure out the proportions. So let's draw in this block the pelvis like this here. So now we have this upper body. And what we do now is we take a little bit off of the lowest point and we divide here this part through middle. So we get somewhere here. Then we know the part of the kneecaps. And here's those hip bones, and here's the feet, like this. Now we can draw this S shape here for the legs. So here we draw these collarbones, or the clavicle bones with the shoulders. And around this part, so a little bit above this halfway, we can draw in the hands. And the hands are a little bit smaller than the head, so a bit around this here. So it's almost halfway here. So then we can draw in the middle those elbow joints and use this S shape to draw the arms. And then somewhat we have the proportions of the skeleton. So if we now go to this one and place it next to it here, we can start drawing in all the muscles. So let's take an eraser and erase it a little bit. And then you can draw in the neck muscles. So here, this, oh, sorry. And draw in those neck muscles like this here. And here's this muscle. And see the head tutorials for all these, how to draw all these steps. I'm now doing it quite quickly, or else this video would also get super long. So here, now we can draw the shoulder here and here. Draw the breast muscles that's going around this part. It's connected here and here. We can draw those arms, the biceps. It's going in the back in that part. Here it's going in the back. Then we have those muscles here. And here's this opening of the rib cage. Here's this thin layer of muscles, and most people, you don't even notice that part. And the side of the muscles go here, and the abdominal. And it's going, it basically goes to the cross, but I'm always drawing it like this here, like there. So it's not really good what I did here. It should go a bit inwards here. So here we have these arm muscles that's going from here, this part, to down here. Again, watch these, the arm tutorials to see all the whole parts. I just wanted to give how you can make the overall view of all the muscles. So you can draw in all the leg muscles that I've just shown here, this part here. Oh, we have this angle here. And here, this is also an important one. That's going down here. Here, this purple one is sticking out a little bit. So, and those calf muscles are also really important for the silhouette. So again, think of this angry face for the placement of the ankles and the feet. So that's basically how I draw all the muscles. At least if I want to draw all the muscles, I know all the steps I take. And yeah, so let's go to the next image, the side of the skeleton. And again, I'm starting with a line here. And then I divide that through half. Again, divide that through half, half, and that you have all these 1/8 parts. Then you can draw in the head here. So like this here. Then you can draw in the spine. It's a bit like this action line. The rib cage. So this basic should be on 1/3 of this part, and this is 1/2. It's really funny how close it's all measured out. Here we have this part, and then we can draw in here, this leg here, and then this line is going here. Then this feet here. So here we can draw these parts. So then we have drawn the skeleton from the side. And it's just by dividing, you can figure out all these body proportions. The same with the back of the body. Of course, really close to the front. Draw a line. Divide, 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 divide. You can draw in the head. And you can, 1/3, so somewhere here. And the rib cage, the pelvis, and here we have those bones. So like this here. Then what's important with the back view is that you have these shoulder blades here and there, and that we can draw these arms attached to it. And when you move the shoulder blades, when you move your arm, you also move your shoulder blades. So here I'm showing how I use these body proportions to draw a character in a pose. So again, with the action line. So when we have an action line like this, you can divide that action line through 8 parts, the same as I've shown earlier. So divide it again through 8 parts, and you can use that to draw the body proportions, to figure out those body proportions. And that can help you a lot when you have trouble finding all the right proportions of the body. And keep it loose, so it's not getting too stiff. And that is basically why I wanted to use that divide through half and half. And even when it's not perfectly correct, it makes it perfect and quick to use for these kind of drawings. So I can show you here another one. So this pose is even a little bit more complex. So what I would advise you is to maybe look up some photos or look up some figure drawing classes and where you can practice this. So again, divide, 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 divide. And it's really funny how our mind is, how good our mind is in dividing things through half. Of course, it's probably not perfect, but that's not even that important. So here, play around, keep it loose, and draw. I think it's really good to first draw things slowly to learn it. But once you've actually learned how to, that you quite well remember all these proportions, you can speed up a bit, and then things will look a bit more energetic and full of energy. So you can also use this trick to draw in perspective. For example, this one is not even that much in this perspective, but let's use this perspective. So then divide through half, 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 again through half, 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 half. And now we can draw this body in perspective. So again, here and here, 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 here. here. And in the next image, that's a little bit more clear. So here I'm showing with the box. So we're taking this color here. So here we're showing this box. Like this here. And if you make this cross between it, you know that the half is here. So if you make this cross, you can figure out the half of these boxes. So this is a little bit one wider than that there. So this 1, 2, 3, 4. So you divide this through half, and then you know that the head is somewhat here. I'll use different color here. So the head, and then we know this box, divide this one through half. So here's just the middle. So here is the pelvis, and here's the rib cage. It's a little bit longer. And the legs look really small, but that's because of the perspective. So you can figure out the body proportions that way. So first draw a box, then divide the box by 8 parts. And then you can draw the same steps as shown earlier to draw the body inside it. So here I'm showing the female skeleton with all the muscles. And you can use this image to learn the muscles. And again, you don't have to know them out of your head, but it's really good to at least have a good understanding of them. So here you can actually see how I would draw this character. With this character, I had to figure out all these muscles because he's only wearing this swim pants. So I start with this rough sketch. And yeah, because I've drawn quite a lot, I know some muscles out of my head. But if I have this rough sketch and I like it, I draw all these muscles on top of it. And then in the final drawing, I decide which muscles I want to show. And that's also depends a bit on trying out and figuring out what kind of style you want to work out. And of course, the biggest muscles, like here this breast muscle, has the most clearest lines. And here you can see the small lines. Maybe I could have drawn here small lines as well. So, but the bigger it is, the bigger the muscle or the shape is thicker lines. So try to remember that. Again, here this is the skeleton, and you can see I played around a bit with the proportions of the skeleton and drawing on the muscles. And sometimes I just draw the legs like this here, that's enough. And sometimes you want to draw all those muscles. What you can also do is sometimes I just draw this sketch and then I draw one line because I know that we have this muscle here. But sometimes when you want to figure it out, you can draw in the whole muscle. And then you can decide, oh, I only have to show this line, maybe a little bit of this, and then here. So that all depends a bit. But then it's really good to maybe look at superhero comics, and you can clearly see that they're not showing all the muscles, but they're showing some of those lines. And you can really learn a lot from that. But now at least you know where that comes from. So here you can see the back and why it's important to, again, learn to draw these basic shapes, the sphere, those cylinders, those cubes, because all the shapes I'm showing here and here are a combination or a morph from these shapes. You can see how these shapes are wrapping around this construction. You can see it as this is your armature. This is maybe if this is a a figure. This is then this is a metal skeleton, and this is clay that is put on top of it. Body proportions. So this is really fun. This is from the idea from, I think Da Vinci invented it, that if you make this circle around it, then you get these proportions of where the hands and the legs are extended. And when it's straight and the arms are wide like this, you get this cube like this here with the head. So that's really interesting how that is. I don't know how practical it is, but it really shows how mathematical the body is, and probably also why that divide works so well. Again, here is also the proportions. You can use this image, maybe put it next to your drawing desk and use it for all the proportions. All the dividing parts, you can see that I'm using the 8 heads. That's not really super correct, but it's super useful to use again. And again, everybody is different. Here you can see a breakdown of stylization of character using these balls, and you can see this ball is way wider than with a realistic character. But that shows that you can really play around with that. But I would first learn those things that I've earlier shown, and later you will experiment and play around more with that. Fun thing is with a character that has more body fat, actually the skeleton stays the same. If this was in real life, if this skeleton, let's duplicate it. So a normal person would have this, but a person with more body fat would look actually like this, but the skeleton will be the same. If you get fatter, your skeleton won't change. So even I changed the skeleton here a bit, because with cartoon characters it's quite harder, especially with the skull. But think of that body fat is. So here I'm showing that a bit. So it's not that if we get bigger, the muscles get bigger. No, the fat is on top of the muscles often, and those create these layers on top of it, those bigger shapes. So think of it, and it all wiggles more, so that's really different than a really muscular person. That's the only thing I wanted to help with that. So here, maybe you can actually try to draw this. Here I'm showing how to use the skeleton first, and then adding basic shapes on top of it. I can quickly show it in steps how to draw that. So here, let's start with this one. So the action line, and then draw the head, the rib cage and the pelvis, the arm up, the arm down. Basically, I save the arms often for last, because those are not really that important for the balance of the character. And then here we have this leg. It's going up like this here. So when you have that skeleton, and it can be a rough sketch like this, oftentimes it's rough like this here, then you can define those shapes a little bit more. Think of all these tutorials I made earlier. So here using these cylinders. And when you have these cylinders, you can add all the muscles on top of it. Like here for this arm here, you have this shoulder muscle, bicep, all those muscles I've shown earlier. So step by step, but that's the order I would draw in. So woman, maybe you can use this as a base to draw your own character. Again, another view of starting using a simplified skeleton, adding the shape, adding muscles, and then the final drawing. Those are basically the steps I take to draw a character. What I would also advise is to use a sketchbook to practice drawing these things. So maybe if you're bored or don't know what to draw, take your sketchbook and Google feet and draw and start drawing feet, or Google hands and start drawing hands. That's really useful to learn how to draw and improve more. So that was the tutorial. I hope you liked it. And if you have ever a question about one of these subjects, let me know. And thanks for watching these anatomy lessons. And I hope to see you later. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.